Number 10, Miami. They had a bye this week, but they can't be trusted. I think you look at Mario Cristobal and Cam Ward, they can just screw up a game, and we saw that when they lost to Georgia Tech last week. I feel like the game plan for Miami this season has just been, we're going to let Cam Ward cook, and he's going to win as many games as he can. And Cam Ward can put up really good numbers. He can keep you in games. He can pull you back into a game. He can maybe even win you a game, but he's not perfect in itself. He's going to have some turnovers, but also this is just kind of a lack of trust in Mario Cristobal to get the job done. But this is still a team that can have an offensive avalanche at any time, so we have them here at number 10. Number 9, Alabama. This is a good team, especially when Jalen Milroe is running the football, but this team has a lower floor than what we're used to seeing with Alabama, and I think that's been their problem this year. They beat Georgia, that was a really good win, and then they dropped 2 games. They dropped Vanderbilt, and then they lose to Tennessee. This team feels really up and down. When Jalen Milroe is giving you a lot of production in the run game, it feels pretty good, but I just don't know exactly what we're going to get Alabama, considering they have a lower floor. Number 8, Ole Miss. They had a bye this last week, but if you're an Ole Miss fan, you have to feel really good about where you're at with your program. Jackson Dart's playing well. He's 3rd in the country in passing yards. One thing that Lane Kiffin said that was notable after the win over Georgia last week was that they had to beef up their offensive line and defensive line. And you really saw how that worked out for them when that defensive line was getting after Georgia's offensive line and Carson Beck. But if you're an Ole Miss fan right now, you have to feel really good about the spot you're in. Number 7, Georgia. 2 tough losses to Alabama and Ole Miss on the road, but they also have 3 quality wins over Clemson, on the road to Texas, and then the win over Tennessee. So this is just a look at the resume for Georgia. The defense is starting to get home and take over games in the second half, but I think it all comes back to Carson Beck. He can't turn the ball over. If he is taking care of the football, giving them just enough production on offense, then this is a Georgia team that can play with anyone. And yes, they have the 2 losses, but they keep bouncing back. Number 6, Notre Dame. I really like what I see out of Notre Dame. They have a championship caliber defense with NFL guys all over that side of the field, and they can run the football. They are, I think, top 15 in the country in rushing yards. And I know they haven't played a big time game in a while. They're just quietly dominating teams, which is exactly what you're supposed to do if you're Notre Dame. They play Army this week, and then they end with USC. The confidence isn't 100% all the way back in Marcus Freeman. You just got to keep in the back of your head, are they going to drop a game? I don't think so, but again, kind of like with Miami in Ole Miss, I don't have 100% confidence in their head coach. However, he's done a really good job since the Northern Illinois game in just progressing throughout the year, getting things fixed offensively. And I can tell you right now, I probably wouldn't feel good about matching up with Notre Dame in the first round of the playoff. Number 5, Indiana. They had a bye this week, which was a perfectly timed bye because they're gearing up to play the Buckeyes in Columbus. I think Indiana is going to come out. They're going to start fast. They're very good about throwing the football down the field. They're going to attack Ohio State's secondary, which it might be a little bit of a weak spot at corner. You look at Denzel Burke, who hasn't really had that good of a year, to be honest. Doesn't look like himself. Got torched in that Oregon game, gave up way too much. So this Indiana down the field passing attack, I think they're going to have a lot of prep. They're going to come in fast. They'll probably start fast in that game. They'll be creative. They've had 2 weeks to prep. So I think with Indiana, everything kind of set up perfectly for them to give Ohio State their best shot. Number 4, Texas. I don't love what I see out of the Longhorns. They're very up and down, but they're winning and making plays when it matters. I'm still hanging on to the fact that I like the defense, and I still think Quinn Ewers and the offensive line can get enough done on offense. But when you look at their resume, what is their best win? Colorado State, Michigan, UTSA, UL Monroe, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Florida, and Arkansas. So they play Kentucky next week, and then they go at Kyle Field and play Texas A&M. But that game at Kyle Field might tell us a lot about what Texas actually is. Number 3, Penn State. This team feels like they have a high ceiling. I just don't know if we're going to see them reach that full potential this year. I think hosting a playoff game for Penn State would be huge for them. It could propel them throughout the playoff. They're really good when they get Tyler Warren involved. Obviously, they're the ultimate X factor. Last 2 regular season games for Penn State at Minnesota, which could be kind of a weird, sneaky game. I think Penn State wins, and then they finish with Maryland. So this team's probably going to host a playoff game, which would be huge for this program, and that'd be really exciting to see for Penn State and see if they can do something with that. The 12-team playoff was kind of made for teams like Penn State, where they've been struggling to get these huge top 5 wins, but they're just one tier below, and hosting a playoff game could be really good for this team. Number 2, Ohio State. Kind of in a wait-and-see mode with the Buckeyes. I mean, they've been dominating, but they've played Purdue and Northwestern these last 2 weeks. Now they move on to Indiana. 3 top 5 games for Ohio State in this regular season, which is kind of crazy to think about. They want the rematch with Oregon in the Big Ten Championship. You got to take care of business in Columbus. Noon kick this Saturday against Indiana. We talked about Indiana already, but they're going to come in. They're going to test Ohio State. I expect Indiana, with the offensive explosion and Ohio State's corners being a little bit vulnerable this year, Indiana also having a week to prepare. I think the Hoosiers come in, jump out to a fast lead. They're going to start fast, creative. Could be like a 10-0 Indiana lead, similar to how the Penn State-Ohio State game started out, which you wouldn't love if you're an Ohio State fan. But the good news is your offense, your Buckeye offense, has found ways to answer the bell every single time. This Ohio State offense finds ways to score when they need to. I just can't help but feel like this game against Indiana, I like Ohio State in this game. I feel really good about their chances, but it might start out the way the Penn State game did, being down 10-0 or something like that. Number 1, Oregon. Snuck out of Camp Randall with a win. Looked human, didn't look great. That's a sneaky place to play. That's a trap game for sure. Wisconsin isn't great. Their offense isn't great. They were very aggressive on defense. They made Dylan Gabriel uncomfortable. The good thing is defense usually travels, and Oregon's defense did travel and showed up. Wisconsin left a lot on the board in this game. Had touchdowns called back for penalties. Late calls at the end of the game that went Oregon's way. Did not go Wisconsin's way. So they looked a little vulnerable, which we haven't seen since really the start of the year. Oregon got the win at night. Tough road environment in November. Just win and move on.